Got it.
Hello and welcome back to the NZ Ahead podcast. I'm Liz.
And I'm Brian.
And today, we have got such a great
It's a good
show.
one, this one, isn't it?
It's a really good one.
Yeah.
Especially if you're moving to New Zealand and you're leaving parents behind and you're just thinking, please, mum and dad, come and move to New Zealand with us. And is there a chance for that? And to be honest, Brian, I'm going to say 90% of people must have that thought.
Yeah, well, they do, because you would want your parents to come with it. Obviously, if you get on with them, but if you don't get on with them, then yeah, please stay over there, because that's why we moved to the side of the world. But the thing is, it might not be a permanent move, but you might want them to be there.
Yeah.
To spend some good quality time with you, for 3 or 4 months or whatever it is.
So you are going to absolutely love this episode. Just a few housekeeping notes before we jump into the episode. So Charlotte is from NZ Shores Immigration Services. We love NZ Shores. You must hear us talk about them all the time. They are part of our community over on our Slack group. They're who we promote. We just have lots of community members use them. We trust them, we like them, and we're happy to promote them. So that's the first thing you need to know. Yeah,
she's a licensed immigration advisor, and you can only get immigration advice from a licensed immigration advisor, or you're allowed to give information. So what you're hearing is all proper, and I just think you're going to get so much out of this show. Yeah. You really, really will.
And don't forget, Charlotte also talks about, in the Slack group, what we give to the members of the community. That's what she's referring to, is our private Slack community that we talk to you a lot about. She's over there, she's got her own channel, and people are able to just speak directly to her. So that's the second thing. The third thing is, if you haven't signed up for our free 5-day video guide yet, which leads to the community that we're talking about, I think I've told you this before. People just say, why don't you just give the link out for the community? Why do we have to take the free 5 days of videos? And the reason for that is because we are looking for commitment. This isn't a way to make money, like, I'll just give you the link and let you sign up and we've made money. We only want people in that community that are committed, that really love New Zealand, that just spend some time just doing their research and getting to know about New Zealand before they jump into that group. So that's the reason we ask you to take the free 5 days of videos. Plus, they're flipping brilliant, aren't they, Brian?
Yeah, but they're great. And it is, like you say, that commitment's important. And it's not a commitment to us, it's a commitment about moving to New Zealand. It's not just, just give it a go.
Yeah.
You can find that for free all over the place. You really, really can.
To get to that community and to take those 5 days of videos that show you some aspect of life in New Zealand, go to www.nzahead.com/free. That's FREE, in case you can't hear me pronouncing my F's properly.
And for those people in the States, NZ, if you want to call it that. It is New Zealand, isn't it?
Look, Bri, you can't come over here calling it NZ.
It's NZ.
It's NZ. Yeah. I'm sorry,
I'm sorry.
And also, it doesn't rhyme with our NZ ahead, doesn't rhyme with NZ ahead.
No, exactly.
And, we put a lot of thought into
ahead.
this.
There you go. Good thinking on the American front, hey?
And also, before we jump into the show, don't forget that me and Bri also host another podcast called It's a Drama. And that podcast is all about, it's almost like a behind the scenes. It's about us living our life in New Zealand.
The last 15 years in New Zealand,
In New Zealand, that's right. And if you go over to It's a Drama, because I know some of you only know about NZ Ahead, if you go over to It's a Drama and scroll back to the beginning, there is a ton of stuff over there about moving to New Zealand and living in New Zealand. So that's just a little tip for you, because I always forget to mention that we have got another podcast.
Yeah. Well, we separated this one for that reason.
Yeah.
Just so we could, be in that niche of moving to New Zealand.
Yeah. And also, don't forget one last thing, that we've got a YouTube channel called It's a Drama as well. And we publish these podcasts on YouTube, and we also talk about other things over there on YouTube. So again, just something to remember if you are looking for extra content. There is masses of it under our It's a Drama umbrella.
Yeah.
So head on over there and check that out. Right. Let's jump into the show and find out how you can get your parents over to New Zealand to be with you.
Got it.
Welcome to the NZ Ahead podcast. Everything you need to know about moving to and living in New Zealand.
There's a whole world here.
So nice to be with you again.
We call it Aotearoa around here, bro.
You'll be right.
We are your hosts, Liz and Brian.
Amazing New Zealand in the southern seas.
See, that's where I belong. That's home.
Hello, good morning, Charlotte, and welcome back to the podcast this morning.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm excited to be back.
And we are too. And we are, obviously, we know you very well, but for those who don't know who you are and what you do, can you just introduce yourself and let us know?
Absolutely. My name is Charlotte Stockman. I am a licensed advisor for a company called New Zealand Shores. So we specialise in bringing predominantly people to New Zealand. We do also have a sister company called Australian Shores, but our dealings with Liz and Brian are purely about people migrating to New Zealand because that's the beautiful little country that the three of us live in.
That's right, yeah.
How do we get hold of you as well?
Oh, perfect. So if anyone wants to get hold of me, no doubt my email will get popped down in the information below the video, but my email address, best point of contact generally, just obviously due to time zones, is charlotte@nzshores.com.
Brilliant. We thought we'd get that out of the way at the beginning because a lot of people they go through the video and they can't remember how to get hold of you. But like we said, we will put the link in the description.
Yeah, and we'll put it throughout the show as well.
Yeah, we will.
Perfect.
Now, just to let everyone know, NZ Shores, we work closely with you within our community. We love you guys. You just bring us the best information and value to our community members. And today, I'm so excited because you're going to be talking about a parent visa, which we get asked about so many times, because when you move into New Zealand, the biggest thing is you just want your mum and dad to come with you as well, don't you? You know, you just want, oh, please come to New Zealand, please move with us. It's brilliant. So today, just give us a rundown of what you're going to be covering in this episode where it comes to parent visas.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, it's a question we get asked often at very initial stages of consultations with people as well. Family is really important. So when people are planning that initial move, it's definitely a question we get asked. So we'll go over the different types of visas that are available to parents. So we've got 2 residency visas and a particular visitor visa, which allows extended stays in New Zealand. So the aim is to just give a brief overview of each of those different categories. And we will also talk about there is a proposed visa, which we're expecting an update from the government on next year. So we'll just cover off all of those and give people a bit of an understanding on what those options look like about bringing your parents to New Zealand.
Brilliant. So if you're watching this and you're interested in parent category, parent and grandparent visitor visa, parent retirement category, this is the show for you. Yeah. So first of all, Charlotte, what are the visa options if I want to bring my parents to New Zealand with me? I'm sorted. I've got a job. I'm over here. I want my mum and dad to join me. What are my options?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, there's 3 different visa types. So if you're wanting your parents to come out for a short trip, perhaps your parents are looking at spending 6 months of each year in New Zealand. The first visa we've got, which is a visitor visa, is called the parent/grandparent visitor visa. So it's got different policy attached to it than what a standard general visitor visa does. So a standard general visitor visa, which you can also apply for, allows a maximum stay of 9 months in every 18. So you can't extend past that under that visa. So once someone has spent 9 months in New Zealand under a visitor visa, they actually have to leave for 9 months before they can come back in. Whereas the grandparent/parent visitor visa has different policy attached to it. And that visa allows 3 6-month stays over a 36-month period. So effectively, your parents can actually spend a total of 18 months in New Zealand over a 3-year period. In order to get each lot of 6 months, you can come for 6 months at a time. You can then exit New Zealand, come back and get your next lot of 6 months. Some people will try and run those almost together to try and basically spend a total of 18 months in New Zealand. There's no threshold on how long you have to be out of the country. So for example, you could come into New Zealand for 6 months, go to Australia or the Pacific Islands for a few days, come back, get your next 6 months, do the same, come back, get your next 6 months. But then if you do run them together almost concurrently, you will to have a stand down period to balance out how long you've been in the country. So it's not a permanent solution. You can't just run those visas, 18 months together at a time to stay here indefinitely. But if you are looking at coming out for shorter periods at a time, or even half a year at a time, it is the best option really for a temporary stay. So that's our first one.
Just going back to that stand down period. How long would that stand down period be?
So if you run them together concurrently for 18 months, you would actually have to stay out of the country for 18 months.
Right.
If you only come for 6 months at a time, across those 3 years, there is actually no stand down period because you would have spent an equal amount of time outside New Zealand as what you have inside New Zealand. So if you do that, so if you come for 6 months a year for 3 years, you can then actually apply for a further parent visitor visa after that.
Which works great because if you do have parents in the Northern Hemisphere, they could spend the 6 months, the better 6 months, like spring and into autumn sort of time, isn't it? Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a guy in our office, Fabian. His in-laws virtually do that every summer. They're based in France and they will come out for about 4 months at a time. And that's the visa they hold. So for every Christmas, New Year, summer period, they ditch the miserable weather in Europe and come and hang out in New Zealand for a few months over our best months.
Oh, that would just be ideal, wouldn't it? Yeah. That's your ideal circumstances, isn't it? Like
it is, because you get to see that quality time with your parents, which you would you stayed at home. You don't do that, do you? Like, you know?
And also, absolutely.
You don't get on with your in-laws. You're just like, oh, well, your time's up now. You've got to go back. Look, your visa's up now.
6 days.
We'll get you on the plane as soon as we can.
So brilliant. So that's more like temporary, isn't it? So sorry to interrupt. Go on then. What's your next
That's fine.
option?
Yeah. So the next one, which is the easier, well, I say easier loosely, the less evidence you have to provide, I guess, is what we call the parent category. So the parent category is based purely on your resident child living in New Zealand and the income they earn. The income does bump up every year, and you have to have earned a particular level of income for 2 out of the 3 years prior to applying for residence. So you can combine, you can either have one sponsor and the threshold slightly lower, or you can have 2 sponsors and that threshold actually becomes quite easy to obtain. So the way they work it out is it's the first sponsor must earn 1.5 times the median wage, which at the moment is roughly about $96,000 per year. And then if you're including additional sponsor, and that additional sponsor can either be a partner or a sibling. So if you're a brother and sister and you're living in New Zealand and your parents want to migrate as siblings, you can combine your income to sponsor them. You then have to prove an additional half of the 1.5 times the median wage. So does get a little bit complicated in the numbers, and I'm not going to throw them out because you'll get lost. But if you do think that you potentially meet those income thresholds, for 2 sponsors, it's around about 130,000 at the year at the moment. So feel free to reach out and we can give you what that table looks like to show what you need to have earned the previous years to meet that threshold. The reason it can be a little bit harder is it is a ballot system. So, and you have to have been a resident for 3 years before you can sponsor your parents. So this is one where often people ask about it when they're freshly migrated, and I say, look, this is what policy is now. Good to keep your incomes at these relevant levels, but what policy is in 3 years' time is really hard to forecast. It has actually got easier. The last 2 successive governments have actually made this visa easier, which unlike a lot of visas, they get harder. This one's got easier. So I'm not sure if they'll play around with it too much more, but obviously hard to forecast what's going to happen in that space. But it is a ballot system. So once you've been a resident for 3 years, your parents' expression of interest goes into a pool. Selections happen every 3 months. They started in August 2022, and they've been rolling every 3 months since then. And you may or may not get selected. So there's no guarantee around it, which is often, so the criteria can be easy to meet, but there's no guarantee that you will actually be invited to apply for residence. I've had 2 out of my 6 drawn out that went in sort of end of 2022. So it's it's very random. I had a few people say, oh, how long does it take? Well, we don't know because it's randomized. So it's a bit hard to forecast that one. But your your expression of interest or your EOI will stay in that pool for 2 years. And if you're not invited to apply within that 2 years, it will expire. So that means you lose the money attached to that expression of interest, but you can keep submitting them. So there's nothing that stops you from continually submitting an expression of interest into those pools until you're hopefully selected.
All right. So just to clarify on this, because I got a little bit lost on that, is if you've got, say, you're a husband and wife,
Mm-hmm.
you've both got two sets of parents. So you
Yep.
said if the first set of parents, you've got to earn 95,000-ish, and the second pair, it would be, you would have to be earning 130,000 to bring
Yeah.
four people
Yeah.
in theory.
Yeah,
Right.
so
Okay.
it does go up quite significantly. So if you're wanting to sponsor four parents in total, your income threshold actually has to be between 200 to 300,000. So it is quite,
Right.
yeah, so it increases significantly depending on how many parents you want to bring to New Zealand.
Right.
Again, there's a nice little table that if anyone wants that table to review, send me an email and I can flick it out to you to have a look and figure out how you meet those thresholds based on how many parents you have to sponsor, or whether there's one sponsor or two sponsors. The thresholds change depending on how many parents you've got.
Yeah, and if you don't like the mother-in-law, she's the one who can't come.
Hey, that's between them. We will just do as we're told.
I've just got a few questions before we move on. I just want to say as well, again, I will say people can reach out to you. Your email is in the description. We'll probably put it on the screen, and you're very, very, very approachable. So please,
absolutely.
If you're watching this thinking, oh, I'd like to ask her, just email Charlotte and she will get straight back to you. So that's that clear. Right. My question is, well, first of all, I'm quite happy because I was under the impression that, because you remember like years and years ago, if you wanted to bring a parent over, you literally had to be a millionaire, didn't you? You know, you had to sponsor them, and it was like, well, there's no way that's happening. So it's quite hopeful that it's a 1.5, isn't it? That you have to be able right. Okay. So first of all, you said you can't do that until the person over here. So say I'm coming over and I want my dad to come over here. I have to have been here for 3 years as a resident. Is that right?
Correct. That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, before he can apply. Can he come over on that 6 months and then go back and then come, you know, that first one that you talked about? Could he do that? Oh, he can. Right. Okay.
He can. Yeah. So I've got about 3 parents in that situation at the moment where they are just sitting and waiting, hoping that their expression of interest will be drawn out of that pool. And that's exactly what they're doing. They're spending periods of time in New Zealand on that grandparent visitor visa while they await that to happen. There are a couple ways we can try and extend we can play with different visa types between the parent and grandparent visitor visa and a general visitor visa to try and extend stays if you are invited to apply for residence, but that is if you are invited. So like I mentioned earlier, those visitor visas are not designed to keep people in New Zealand permanently. They are really just a temporary measure to basically get people in to spend time with their families. So we are a little bit careful around that because we have seen disappointment where people tend to forget that those visitor visas are purely for a temporary stay, and then we get to the end of that temporary stay and they say, well, I want them to remain, and they can't. So it is really important to keep that in the back of their minds that while you're waiting for that resident visa to process or be invited to apply, there's no guarantee that that parent will be able to stay with you in New Zealand indefinitely.
Yeah, good point. Good point. And Charlotte, before we move on to the next visa, do they, you know, when they get put into the pool and then they don't get picked, do they give them a reason why they haven't been picked, why it's been rejected, or like, is there anything they can do to make their next application more successful, or is it literally just well, you just weren't and that's it?
It's just you weren't selected. So with that initial expression of interest stage, it is literally you submit a form. The information you submit is quite basic. The form will say, does your sponsor or sponsors meet the required threshold? You say yes, and that's pretty much all there is to it. There's nothing that makes that a stronger application because it's a bit like lotto or the green card lottery for the US. You may or may not get drawn out. You may or may not win the lotto. So it is a little bit the same. You're almost buying a very expensive lotto ticket to go into this Immigration New Zealand pool, hoping that you're going to win the lottery and get selected and invited to apply.
So with that, because I know when we came over 15 years ago, we had to go into the pool. That obviously every application is looked at. It's not just thrown into this pool, or is it just the ticks, the points or whatever it is that you get? How do they look at that then?
So the pool you would have applied under, slightly different. The pool you applied under, everyone did get looked at. So they would have looked at everyone to see, are you claiming the required points? This is very much like playing lotto. You're putting your money, you're putting your form in, and they will only look at it if they select you and withdraw that from the pool. So it's only at that point that they will look at it and say, okay, and obviously no one's going to say, we don't meet the threshold to sponsor, because everyone's going to say yes, right? Because they want to make sure that they get that invitation to apply. So they will only look at it if they actually, you are the randomized number that gets pulled out in that selection.
It really is like a lotto, isn't it?
It is, then,
It is like lotto, yeah.
Okay, Charlotte, on to the next one then. What's the next one?
So the next one, a little bit easier in a sense to get, where it's not a randomized lottery. It's called the parent retirement category. It is an investment-based visa. You don't, as a sponsoring child, you don't actually have to have spent any particular amount of time in New Zealand as a resident. So you could get residency today and your parents could apply for that visa tomorrow. But it does have financial requirements attached to it because it is investment based. So the parent retirement category at the moment requires you to have 1 million New Zealand dollars to invest. Immigration New Zealand does provide a list of what they deem acceptable investments. They're all very low risk investments, like government bonds are a really good example, New Zealand listed companies, that kind of thing. So you've got your million to invest. That investment has to be retained in those acceptable investments for 4 years. So you are effectively demonstrating a commitment to New Zealand for that period by investing that money for that time. In addition to that 1 million investment funds, you also have to have an additional 500,000 New Zealand dollars for settlement funds. So you can almost look at the portion you have to be able to prove as 1.5 million New Zealand dollars. Settlement funds can be used for anything. You can use them to purchase a home, buy a car, do whatever you please. That money is your way of signaling to Immigration New Zealand that even though you've got this money invested, you still can actually support yourself in the meantime while you're here. And then you also have to have a guaranteed annual income of 60,000 New Zealand dollars per year. So if you're a single applicant, you have to prove that entire amount by yourself. If you are a couple looking to migrate to join your children in New Zealand, that amount can be spread across both people. So for example, if you're a couple coming from the UK, you could be getting 30,000 New Zealand dollars, the British pound equivalent, each, and that would then combine for your 60,000 income. So it's easier in the sense that your child doesn't have to have lived here for as long. It's not a lottery system. So you submit an application, it will get processed. They do take about 18 months though, so it's not the fastest application in the world, but you will get approved basically if you've got the money and you are of relatively good health for your age. So yes, it's expensive, but on the other hand, it's easier if you do have those funds, because it's not a lottery, it's not a gamble. It will be processed and it will be approved. We do a number of them, obviously not as many as the parent category, just because that threshold financially is a little bit harder to meet. But we do get quite a few people coming from the UK and the US who, with the exchange rate, it actually makes it a little bit easier to meet that financial threshold.
And obviously you've got to prove that money is yours. It's not borrowed from something else, just to
yeah. You can have funds gifted to you, but those funds can't come from within New Zealand. So if your child's already living here and they've moved all their money to New Zealand, they can't actually gift you the money for investment. Settlement funds are a little bit different, but if you've got, I don't know, a really nice brother or sister that's also lives overseas and wants to give you some money, then that's okay. It just can't come from within New Zealand.
Right.
What's this visa called again? Which one is this?
This is called the parent retirement. So yeah, they all have very similar names, which makes it a little bit confusing.
And are there age limits on those?
No. So no age limit, which is no age limit on any of them.
Right.
You could be young in your 50s, or you could be 80, or whatever. You can be whatever age that you want to apply.
If you're coming over on that, the first one we talked about, like every 6 months for 36 months, are you covered by any health or anything in New Zealand?
No.
So your own health insurance and stuff?
Yeah. You'll need to travel with your own health insurance. You're only given access to New Zealand healthcare if your visa is granted for a total of 24 months or longer. and that actually only applies, it doesn't apply to visitor visas, which is the technicality there. So if you come over on a 2-year work visa, yep, great, you get access to New Zealand healthcare, but under that parent/grandparent visitor visa, you should have health insurance. We're obviously not like the States. I mean, if you turn up to a hospital, they will still treat you, but you could end up with a bill. I don't know how hard they chase people on that, but you'll get treated. It just might cost you a lot of money.
Are you covered on ACC?
Yes, everyone is covered on ACC.
Just to clarify, that means if you have an accident, you're covered. If you fall over, break your leg or something, then that would be covered for free.
Yeah, absolutely. So even if you come out to New Zealand on holiday for 2 weeks, for example, you are covered by ACC. So everyone gets that, which is cool.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
it's fantastic.
it is.
Yes.
I didn't believe it when someone told me, and then I did a Google. I was like, oh, okay, wow, that's
it really is
good. Yeah.
I was even covered when I slipped and hurt my wrist in Thailand. Not this trip I've just done.
Wow.
Because it wasn't more than 6 months I was away. I was still covered under ACC to have treatment back in New Zealand for physio and stuff.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I didn't know that either,
No,
so that's good to know.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple of questions about that. Do you know what? I keep thinking about they're sitting in the immigration office and they're like, oh, brilliant. $1 million one's just come through. Stick that through nice and quick. Get that
Leave
in.
that one go 18 months, eh?
So just to be clear, the investment one, that's the parents who have got to have that money, not the child who's living in New Zealand. Is that right? I get the parents.
Correct.
Yeah. So the parents have got to, and if it's 2 parents, like mum and dad, is that still $1.5 million, or is that per person, the $1.5 million bit?
No, it's combined. So it's just a total of 1.5 million. So if you're a single applicant, then of course you have to prove that completely yourself. But if you're a couple, then that can be split across both of you. The one thing I will just mention, if you are a couple, the funds either have to be jointly owned or they have to be owned solely by the principal applicant. So that is something we do have to look at, because often for example, someone might have, I don't know, 200,000 New Zealand dollars owned in their name solely, and they are going to be included as the partner, or so they think they're going to be included as the partner. But if we're having to use that $200,000, they either have to transfer it into a joint account, or that person has to become the principal applicant, because Immigration New Zealand won't accept funds which are solely owned by the secondary applicant, which I don't know, again, seems a bit strange, but that's just what their policy says. So that's a big part of what we do. And I'm actually going through this with a couple from the UK at the moment, because they've got a whole bunch of money in different places and different names. And we're trying to have to figure out where can we move money around to show that, it's either jointly owned or it's owned purely by one of them that will become the principal applicant. So a big part of us assessing and assisting with those applications is actually figuring out, where is that money? Who does it belong to? How do we then make that work for Immigration New Zealand?
So just going back to the once you've invested that $1 million and you've got the 500,000, which is separate from that, how long is it that it's invested for?
4 years.
4 years.
So at the end, yeah.
And if something went wrong, can you pull that back out of that? If you didn't want
Absolutely. It's the same as any other investment that you make. You're not required to, other than for Immigration New Zealand purposes, you're not actually required to retain that in those investments. So if something in your circumstances changed and you decided to go home, that's absolutely fine. You can pull that money out. The only issue is that you won't get your permanent residence at the end of that 4-year period, because immigration will only grant you permanent residence once you've retained that investment in New Zealand for 4 years. But generally, if people are pulling their funds to go home, it's because something serious enough has happened that they've decided they're abandoning New Zealand altogether.
Yep.
Charlotte, before I go on to ask you a couple more questions about this, it's so interesting, isn't it?
Yeah,
you
don't think these things,
know about this stuff.
I know.
I just want to make it clear, because you are part of our community, our NZ Ahead community, our private Slack group. And there's lots and lots of people on there that always are talking amongst each other. And of course, we see everything that's going on about whether or not to use immigration advisors. And so many people, because you don't have to, you can do it yourself.
No, you can. Yep.
Yeah. But so many people say, we went through the process and we got to the end and we were turned down because of some, little mistake. And then they had to go all the way, get sent back. And so when you just said that then about, you have to have this right and you have to have that part right, I just want to say, like I say, it's a great investment. It really is, to just get it right from the start. And so,
Yeah.
I just wanted to make that clear to people,
Yeah,
because
sometimes it's to do with time, and if there's a job as well, that's why you excel on those sort of things.
Yeah.
And the people that
and we
in
get
New Zealand.
so much good feedback.
Yeah.
We get so much good feedback about you guys, and we love
Thank you.
what we do. Anyway,
There's definitely instances where I would say to people, look, you're fine to go do it yourself. I'm never going to sit there and say to someone, you have to use an immigration advisor, because people don't. You're right. There's no obligation to use someone like us. We are obviously a service that you have to pay for, but there are certain visa types where they can be quite tricky to navigate by yourself. And that parent retirement investment-based visa is definitely one of them, because there are so many small intricacies. And I've spent about 4 years sitting under our director, Sarah, learning this stuff. And there's still days where I get confused and I have to walk down the hallway and ask her a question, because she's done hundreds of them. So even though I've done quite a few of them myself, there are still things that I get caught out on sometimes, and having another very experienced advisor in our team who's done a lot of them, it helps massively, because sometimes those little intricacies aren't things that you will find written in immigration policy if you happen to dive into it, or it might not be in the application guide, and it is purely because we've done a lot of these visa types that we know what to look for. So look, people, I would recommend at least having a chat with an immigration advisor, particularly about anything investment related, because there are just so many fine points that you have to be careful of. Another little side note is Immigration New Zealand fees are increasing from the 1st of October quite drastically. So it's becoming more and more expensive if you do make a mistake. Like this parent retirement category at the moment, it's about $5,500 New Zealand dollars. It's going up to $12,500 New Zealand dollars. So that's a lot of money that if you get it wrong and you end up getting a decline, that you've just pushed down the drain, basically.
Do you know what I was going to say? I was going to say, in such a big move to New Zealand, there's some things worth paying for. It's like saying, oh, I'm going to pack all my own things. I'm not going to get, like for us personally, this is to have a packer come in and just pack it all and know that it's going to go through, the proper thing at the port and everything, because they've packed it and we haven't. That's my opinion. I just think, some things are just worth paying for. If it's going to be tricky, then just let a professional do it.
It's documentation and a paper trail, isn't it? Like, and that's the big things. It's like anything. Yes, you can do it yourself, but it's how much you value your own personal time at, because trying to find stuff on even the New Zealand immigration site, which is a pretty good site, it's just vast.
Yeah,
it is.
You read
so
the page,
confusing.
The page I was looking for.
Yeah,
it really, isn't it? It's so hard. Yeah.
So
the other thing. Oh, sorry.
Sorry,
It's okay. I was just going to say the other thing that can be quite scary about the immigration website is it's often contradictory to what's actually in immigration policy, which is what. We find mistakes all the time, and we send them off to a relationship manager at immigration. We're like, hey, we've picked up on this, because even if it's on the immigration website, immigration underpin that with what we call immigration instructions or immigration policy, and that's actually what case officers use to assess applications. So if you find outdated information or incorrect information, and it is on there, we find it all the time, then you could be sending yourself down the garden path with wrong info. So just something to be mindful of.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
So while they're on the top of my mind, the questions I've got are, what about if your parents have got, say they're coming over on the investment one, the $1.5 million one, but they're ill, they've got health problems. How would that work?
So they still have to pass an Immigration New Zealand medical, because it is a residency-based visa. You still have to have a medical done. They obviously don't expect that if you're in your 60s, 70s, 80s, that you have the health of a 20-year-old. They will make some allowances for age-related ailments. But obviously, if you are significantly ill and you're likely to need medication that's really expensive, or you're likely to need surgery within a 5-year period, or you're likely to need to go into like residential care in the next 5 years, you won't get a visa approved. So if you've got a parent who perhaps has had a really severe stroke, for example, or a heart attack, and they're going to need to go back into hospital or into care, then immigration won't grant a visa. So they do still have to get past that threshold. Often Immigration New Zealand, with any parent category, whether it's the parent category ballot system or whether it's the investment-based one, they will actually get a doctor to write a letter to support the application to say that the person is in relatively good health for their age and they're not likely to need residential care, just because obviously if a person can't pay for that themselves, it then falls back on the state to pay for a rest home for someone to live in. So they are very careful about that factor.
Okay. And all right then. So my parents have got all this money, they're millionaires, but my dad is a criminal. Can he still come over?
Australia, yeah.
Yeah, Australia takes convicts. For anyone that doesn't know, Australia was literally a penal colony where they sent people off. So
No,
that's a bit of friendly rivalry between the two countries. But if a person has a criminal record, it ultimately depends on what they've done and how serious it was. It can also depend how long it's been since someone got a criminal conviction, and that's across all visa types, whether it's these parent categories or you're coming on the basis of a job offer as a student. So those are all factors that immigration will take into account. If you've lost your license from too many speeding tickets or reckless driving or drink driving, but it was 30 years ago, well, immigration are going to take a different stance than if it was 12 months ago. So again, more than happy for people to contact me on charlotte@nzshores.com. If there is something that you're not sure about, we would much rather tell people up front whether something's going to be an issue, whether it's health or character, before anyone even goes down that pathway.
Yeah. Can I just say, if someone wants to contact you an email, do they have to pay or is that free?
No, it's 100% free. Unlike a lot of consultancies, we will often do initial consultations, and I offer free consultations to anyone that's part of your community. We will generally give them an idea of what their visa options are, and we will provide them with a quote. So there's no charge for that initial engagement. It's only if you then choose to engage with us and get you to do your visas. There may be the very odd case where if your situation is quite complex and I have to spend more than kind of like 20-30 minutes on it, that we may charge a consultation fee, but I probably do that maybe 5 times a year. So it's not that common that we charge for a consult. That'd
be me on the other end of the yeah, but what about this? But what about this? But what about this?
Oh no, that's fine. It's if you've got very, if someone had perhaps committed manslaughter or something and we had to figure out their path, or if there was options, then we might charge. But if you've got 300 questions, I'll generally answer them for free.
I think what I was getting to is I wondered if just because you've got the money, do they let everything else go under the radar thing, sort of, as long as you've got the money? But it sounds like all visas have to go through like you say, speaking, that they have to do an English test, don't they, to say that they can speak English, and criminal, like record, things like that.
Yeah. With these parent category applications, they don't have to sit English language tests, so they're a bit different to skilled employment in that sense. But you have to at least be able to demonstrate in some way that you are familiar with English, and it doesn't have to be at a super high level. It may just be that you speak English conversationally at home, and you can write a letter to say you speak English conversationally at home, and immigration will be happy with that. So they're not forcing older people to go and sit an IELTS test or a PTE test, for example, and meet a certain threshold. They're a little bit more flexible than they are if you're coming as a student or as a skilled worker.
So Charlotte, what has the government got planned in the future for parents coming to New Zealand?
So our government, which came in October last year, the national government, they did signal a number of changes that they were looking at in the visa space. The one of particular interest for parents, they've named it the Parent Boost Visa. I think this is a really amazing idea because it will plug the gap for people who either don't get selected under that parent category ballot system, or don't have the funds, or who want to spend longer than 6 months every year in New Zealand. So the Parent Boost Visa, as they have proposed, and this is obviously only a proposal at this stage, I will just forefront this with, nothing has been released in policy, nothing has been confirmed. We're just going off what they campaigned in their election under. It will allow a 5-year stay. The rumor is, and again, the rumor is that the visa fee will be set at about $5,000, but a portion of that is to cover insurance while you're in New Zealand. So that would mean that because you're paying such a large amount to the New Zealand government, they will effectively give you a travel insurance while you're here, which will allow you to access healthcare. So that's probably actually pretty reasonable when you look at it like that, because often travel insurance can be like, if you're coming for a 12-month period, it could be $500-$600 anyway. So it's actually, when you look at it in that sense, it's not too bad. They have said that they will allow someone to hold 2 of those visas as a maximum, but that would obviously allow a maximum of a 10-year stay. It is likely that your child living in New Zealand will also have to meet income thresholds similar to that parent category. But this is obviously, again, only based on kind of what the National Party have on their website and what's kind of loosely being talked about in the media. So nothing's been confirmed yet, but we do know that we're expecting a few announcements early in the new year. And based on a conversation that we had with the immigration minister at a lunch that New Zealand Shores went to a little while ago, they are definitely looking at releasing information on that next year. So we're really excited about it, because there are a number of people who we think will be really interested in that visa, just because, like I said, it plugs the gap between that visitor visa and applying for residence, but also allows your parents to join you for hopefully up to 10 years. So that would be really exciting.
That's really exciting. Yeah, that's fantastic.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
You say they're going to be they may announce that in the new year then. So we'll be watching that.
Whole lot of ifs, buts, and maybes at the moment. Again, we don't count our chickens until they hatch, so to speak. But we're really hopeful that they're going to come true on that. So just watch this space, basically.
Yeah.
Do you know what, Charlotte? I love talking to you, because there's nothing you don't know about immigration, is there? I mean, literally, your head is full of immigration stuff. It's great.
Yeah.
We often joke in the office that if we went to a pub quiz and they asked a whole bunch of immigration questions, we'd be fine. But anything else is I have no idea about. So,
oh, well, no, it's brilliant, because you can answer every question. So that's absolutely fantastic. Did you want to ask anything?
No, I just think for people that live in New Zealand already, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it's the importance of immigration, because a lot of people say, the country's too full. We don't need any more people.
Yeah. And we hear that. I hear that all the time. And
you just think, so hang on a minute. It's just like, with a declining population, because New Zealand, a lot of New Zealanders tend to go to either Australia or like they go on their OEs, stay away for a long time to earn more money to come back and buy a house and things like that. And it's just to clarify to people the importance to the economy that immigrants make to a country. It really is.
Yeah. It's something that you and I know so well. It's something a lot of Kiwis perhaps who haven't traveled don't quite grasp the concept. I mean, I hear it all the time, especially in social circles, or if I'm out at a dinner and I meet new people, it's, oh, what do you do for a job? And I try to avoid that question, because it inadvertently leads to that. Yes. We've got too many people, we don't need any more. But actually New Zealand does. We do need more people. We have massive skill gaps in New Zealand. Yeah. We're not training the number of people that we need to fill those skill shortages, and there's certain sectors that are obviously impacted more than others, but I think if you are coming to New Zealand and you're filling a need for us, then it's important to be able to have your family come, whether it is on a temporary basis or you do meet the criteria for them to join you permanently. I think that's so important, and New Zealand should be more open at encouraging that, I think, because it's easy as a Kiwi, I think, to sit back and say, oh, we don't need these people, but I think they'd start complaining if their infrastructure suddenly stopped working, because we're not bringing in the people to work on that infrastructure.
And otherwise prices go woomph, they go up.
Yep.
And because the declining population, and it's I didn't understand the politics, or not so much the politics, but the economics of a growing population. That's the only thing that will make a country get better, is to have people living in it,
I read a stat somewhere that New Zealand's ideal number would be around 10 to 11 million, and we've got a population of just over 5 at the moment. And there's really cool infographics online that show where people are actually based in New Zealand, and it's predominantly around the coast of the North Island, and then it almost looks like there's no people in the south. So we've definitely got room to grow.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Charlotte, is there anything that we haven't asked you or we haven't covered that you feel that people should know about?
I think a lot of this information will probably feel quite confusing if you're sitting down and listening to this. So by all means, if you are on that migration journey or you're already here and you want some information on what that looks like for your parents and for your case specifically, please feel free to reach out. More than happy to give you a rundown on what that would look like for you. The only thing I think we should mention for the parent category, and sorry, I should have mentioned it earlier, is that with that parent category, that ballot lottery system, you are sponsoring your parents, which means that you are somewhat liable for them once they're here. So you do need to be prepared that they may need to live with you if they can't afford their own accommodation. And you are also responsible for if your parents do something naughty and need deporting, you become responsible for those costs as well. And that lasts for a period of 10 years. If you come out on that parent category application, your parents are not able to access any government welfare, for 10 years after that visa is approved. So you do have to, as a family, really be prepared to support mum and dad if that's what they need, because the government will not step in to help for those 10 years. Once they've been here for 10 years, then they're actually eligible for permanent residence, and then they can start getting government help. So if they're younger, I guess, that it gives them some time to actually be able to access all those wonderful things New Zealand offers. But that is just something to have in the back of your mind for sure. That doesn't apply to the parent retirement category, because it's investment based and your parents are bringing money into the country. But definitely that parent category, you have to be aware that there are sponsorship requirements attached to that.
Yeah.
Are they allowed to buy a house, or would they not be allowed to buy a house?
They can buy a house, because to buy a house, you only have to be a resident visa holder. You don't have to be a permanent resident. So they can still purchase property. It's just there's no access. And they obviously get free healthcare as well, but there's no access to like government pensions, unemployment benefits, anything like that. So that's just the one thing to be aware of with that category.
Just on that, buying a property or a house, if you're not... Can you still buy a house? I mean, not by being a permanent resident, but could you like, because some are just a lease, aren't they? Or is that something a bit...
Buy a leasehold property?
Yeah, like a leasehold property. Or is it the same thing as property?
I think, look, I'm not a property lawyer, so I don't want to overstep my mark here, but my understanding is you can't buy any form of residential property unless you are a resident yourself.
Okay. That's all right. That's good to know.
And when you say you're liable for them, like they... What do you mean by that? Just like, obviously, if they break the law, then you're going to have to bail them out, or you're going to be. Would it go on your record, or not that your mum and dad are going to come over and just be criminals? But
yeah, but some angry old.
You hope not. You hope not. You hear stories, but you hope not. So when I say you're liable for them, basically what immigration expect in that sense is that if your parents can't afford their own accommodation, you should be taking them in and looking after them, or you should be paying for that yourself. If they do commit a crime and they have to be deported from the country, and you have to do something pretty extreme to get deported, you are liable for those costs as well that may come from the government. Because obviously if you're deported, Immigration New Zealand is saying, well, we're kicking you out, we're putting you on a plane, so you'd become responsible for any cost attached to that. If they passed away and you wanted their remains repatriated elsewhere in the world, you become responsible for all of those costs. The New Zealand government won't stand in and help. So they do get access to free healthcare, but that is basically the limit. So there's no access to government pensions or welfare or benefits. So there's no financial assistance, I guess, is what probably the easiest way to explain it.
Yeah,
that's all right.
Do you know what, Charlotte? I think this is really, really exciting and really encouraging, because like I said at the beginning of the episode, one of the biggest things anyone moving to the other side of the world will be thinking is, I don't want to leave my mum and dad, or I don't want to leave grandparents. It's horrible, isn't it? Like, just thinking you've just got to separate. So even having a glimmer of hope now, like I say, because it used to be that, well, unless you're a millionaire, mum, you can't come. Like, that's it. But these options that you've shared with us here is really, really hopeful, especially that one that I fingers crossed they're going to release in January. That would just be amazing. But do you know what? Even the investment one, I was thinking about it, and you was like, oh yeah, it's $1 million. You've got to have, is it $1.5 million you've got to have?
In total,
Yeah, in total invested. But that's £750,000, which, to be honest, if you've lived in England all your life and you're selling your property, or you've got it's not that unachievable, is it?
No, not with the house prices over there. Again, it's
I know it's horses for courses, but what I'm saying is it's not. It used to be that you had to be a movie star, or I don't know, you had to own a yacht, or do you know what I mean?
Have lots of money,
have lots and lots. To me, I just think, all right, I know not everyone's got that, but it's not doable. On the grand scale of things, is it, for some people, like you said, and that's why you get people coming over.
And there are a lot of people, particularly from the UK and the US, who will literally just sell their property. And we can use a property valuation as well. So you can go get a legal valuation done on your house, and they might say your house is worth £1 million, and then obviously we can convert that to New Zealand dollars, and then there's your funds, to move. So you're right, if you've owned your house for a long time in the UK or the US and the value's gone through the roof, which house prices have everywhere in the last 5 years, then you probably will have the money in that property to be able to move. I guess it's just whether people are comfortable then having that tied up in another investment for 4 years that they can't touch. That's just one thing that they'll have to work out. But it is relatively doable if you come from a country with a favourable exchange rate.
Yeah.
But that's what that other 500,000's for, isn't it? I suppose it's for that 4 year period, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Charlotte, like I say, we love you. You're amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today. Don't forget,
thank you.
If you are listening to this or watching on YouTube and you are part of our community, Charlotte is there on the immigration channel. You just go and at her and you can talk to her constantly. She's there all the time. And if you are not part of our community and you want to email Charlotte, Charlotte's email address is
charlotte@nzshores.com.
Nice and easy.
And nzshores.com.
See, Brian, you're trying to be all clever.
I was thinking, is it newzealandshores.com? But I think it's I think you've
both will work. Yes. Both will work for us. Yeah, I actually tested that the other day, so I know both will work.
We're going to put your links in the description, and as always,
amazing.
It's such a pleasure to talk to you. You're just a wealth of information. It's always the easiest podcast episodes when I talk to you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you just know your stuff, which is absolutely lovely. So don't forget, if you are watching this on YouTube and you've got questions that you would want us to cover, because there's lots of immigration and questions and visa options. If you are sitting there thinking, I wish they'd talk about that, let us know in the comments on YouTube, and we can go to Charlotte and just set up a podcast for that.
Absolutely.
That's as easy as that.
Do you guys do live, don't you? Live Zoom sessions?
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'd be happy to jump on a live one, even if it's not during office hours. If you give me enough notice, I can free my schedule up and do like a quick fire question and answer session.
Yeah, that would be brilliant.
That's going to be one of the ones that we want to do. I think.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Yeah, if you give me enough notice, I'll make it work. Look, the only thing I do on a Sunday is go for a long run. So
Charlotte, thank you so much for joining us this week. We can't wait to catch up with you again. And like I say, everything will be in the description. Reach out to Charlotte. Very, very approachable. The company are brilliant. And that's all I've got to say. Thank you so much, Charlotte.
Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thanks for having me as usual, guys.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Speak to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast this week. We have loved having you here with us.
If you loved this week's show, please share this with your friends. Send it to anybody you know that wants to think about moving to New Zealand, and get on over here yourself.
And tell them how brilliant it is as well. And also, if you haven't signed up for our free 5-day video guide showing you what life is really like in New Zealand, then go over to the website and sign up. You are missing out. This is brilliant. Go over to www.nzahead.com/free and we will send you 5 days worth of videos about what life is like in New Zealand. You are going to love it. So one more time, that website that you need to sign up for the free 5-day guide is www.nzahead.com/free. free. So we're going to see you next week. Until then, have a great week and we'll speak to you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Say bye again. Bye.
Bye.